Bueno, dicen que el mundo se divide entre optimistas.
They say the world is divided between optimists and pessimists. The pessimist is the person things happen to, and the optimist is this person that makes these things happen. If you've watched the video carefully, you've seen that we now face an opportunity to improve the world. And we have to see the development of all those changes that will be taking place. Our relationship with life, with work, and with the planet will be changing. And all these changes, some of them already happening, will allow us to improve things. And it is true, things could go worse, but things could be much better. And here in the Basque country, here we've decided to be optimists and to work as hard as possible to improve things for the Basque country and for the world. Taking this into account, we observe that we're not only going to change what we do, but also what we are. That's why the work we're doing in education and in vocational training is so significant. So we need to work in a new context. Everything that is new generates uncertainty, something we don't like, because maybe we're obtaining very good results nowadays, which we are, but we know that in a few years we need to transform or change things, or we won't be obtaining these positive results anymore. That's why we need to continue applying new things and moving forward to be able, as our president said, to prepare everyone for the new context that we will face in a near future. One of the problems of humankind and of everyone when we work and develop a project is the concept of inertia. Inertia means that we work in the same way we did before. We continue doing things in the same way. But the mind is like a parachute, or it's open or it won't work. So, in this case, if we want to continue moving forward, we need to break with the inertia. We need to learn new ways of working and thinking and acting. We need to do more things, different ones to the ones we're doing, even if they're working well nowadays. We need to learn how to do these new things. One of the three questions we have here are questions asked by all countries. What are going to be the jobs of the future? How are we going to define this? And how are we going to be able to train individuals for all of these changes that you've seen on the video? The regional minister for economy talked about the importance of Industry 4.0. But it won't only be Industry 4.0, which is vital for us, but this will be something changing everything in society, and it will be affecting society. From there onwards, we know that we're going to be in a world full of smart systems. There's going to be a very quick technological revolution, so we need a high skilling and training of those living this fourth industrial revolution, something that we will observe in the next years. So knowledge and skilling needs to be greater than the one we have now to be able to absorb all these changes we will be facing. There's something also significant for us, and that's the concept of employability. We don't speak only about one job position. We're talking about employability. And what is employability? It's the capacity of people to access a job in different situations, which is a difference in quality. Because in the future, individuals need to have the capacity of finding a job in different situations, whatever they are, in the uncertainty and complexity that I just explained. They say this is like a hurricane that comes in really fast. Yes, the youth somehow needs to be protected and be provided the necessary training to feel comfortable in this complexity and uncertainty. They need to be trained differently to the way in which they were trained before, because we know that their adaptability to a changing world is going to be fundamental for them and for us. But there needs to be a clear concept. I always have this as an example, because for 50 years he's been following and not catching the other animal. So he knows all the tricks, but he's never able to catch it. And training and being prepared is not exactly the same thing. So allow me to please explain the difference once again. We have a group of engineers invited from a country that is none of the 47 countries represented here today. And they invite them to get to know the best airplane in the world. They go in, they see the seats, the windows, everything is very modern, and they're very pleased. And then the pilot says, hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to very proudly say that this airplane has been built by your students. Suddenly, they all run out of the plane except one of them that stays seated and calm. When they see him, they say, aren't you concerned that you're everyone's running out and you stay here? And he says, no, and I'm going to explain why. If it's true that my students were in charge of building this plane, then I am sure, and I fully trust, that this shit is not going to be able to even start. And then they say, this would never have happened with a VET involved, but haven't confirmed this yet. So this context, and with this joke, explains that sometimes we have a training that is not up to date. So even if this is very good training, the people won't be qualified or skilled enough for their jobs. So we need to understand that they need to be at the same level so that we obtain positive results for those studying with us. And this brings me to the concept of complexity and how they need to have a greater training. We need people that need to have an advanced training, and the educational system is very important to be able to achieve this. We also need to have them skilled professionally. Furthermore, and this is being seen on many situations, the companies want them to be highly skilled, but we also need them to have what we call 4.0 values that would provide the answer to the new future of the fourth industrial revolution. Because we should ask ourselves, what's going to be more important in 15 years? Artificial intelligence or human intelligence? This is an important question, because we think human intelligence is going to be very significant, but we need to reinforce this so that they can work with artificial intelligence so that people can live in a better way and do things in a better manner. So that's the profile we're looking for. This brings us to a fundamental context that the president of the Basque country mentioned before. There's no better source of change than those that and where do these ideas and imagination bring us? To the human being. There's nothing more important, an absolute priority for a government, than sustainable human development. That's who we focus on, individuals. For example, we have robots and automatic systems and so on and so forth. But human beings are what's most important. And with ideas, we will be able to propagate them, transmit knowledge, share many viewpoints and capacities amongst all. And with imagination, we will be able to rethink the future. But let's focus on something that's fundamental. Ideas with no action would be called creativity. If we're going to have action with no ideas, that would be management. And if we have ideas and actions, then we have innovation. And that's the context for the Basque country, and that's what we're bringing to VET. Ideas and action, which would be applied innovation. Action is the basis for knowledge and application. Doing. Sometimes we will make mistakes. We will learn what shouldn't be done. We would rectify and continue progressing. And if things progress, then we will be able to continue and deploy these ideas, something also important for VET in the Basque Country. In the Basque Country, in 2014, the fourth plan was passed for VET, working on training, innovation, and entrepreneurship. We were facing an enormous crisis that we are now overcoming, but still we have to continue working because there's people that still don't have a job. That means we haven't overcome the crisis fully. So we had to think about the future. They asked us to prepare vocational education and training for the next 4 years, which is the one we have nowadays. And this VET nowadays has employability in an 82% and in some industries in 100%. So we're on the right track, but that's not enough. We need to continue working because in training we have a change in all methodologies so that people have other skills that give them the possibility of working in the future, of working in this new context in the fourth industrial revolution. We are focusing also on dual training that was mentioned by our president, and also specialization, providing tailor-made specialization for our industries and companies, training them for that specific jobs. They tell us about them, and in 1 to 3 months, we're able to develop the training for them, and then we prepare those skilled workers. In this context, we include the initiatives that are very important for them, and that's including 5 very important elements. The capacity of providing information. We work in teams based on challenges. Each challenge needs to have data, analyze that data, provide creativity, and try to improve the information and analysis, trying to improve the product or service they're working on, to have then a first prototype, and from there onward decide and execute the next project, and then we decide what's okay and what needs to be rectified. So the teaching staff is working very hard to provide all of this, and we can observe this in the results. 52 centers are working with these methodologies. More than 1,600 teachers are using these new methodologies in the classroom, and there's more than 3,000 teachers that are now trained to work with these methodologies, and many students with the different VET courses. And by 2020, we will have a 70% of VET covered with this high-skilled training with magnificent results. But this is thanks to the teaching staff and thanks to the team of Technica that coordinates and helps all teachers to work in an efficient manner and to be able to obtain the necessary results. But we also work on innovation, not only in VET, but we also, in a coordinated manner with the competitiveness department, we work with SMEs so that these SMEs and micro SMEs also work with innovation in their production or in their services that they provide. So we work with 1,300 companies that will be 1,800 by the end of June. SMEs and micro SMEs that will be working with VET, and we will be providing for them a diagnosis of the needs of innovation. We will work on the pre-projects, and then we will have applied projects in products, processes, and in some cases, services too. We also focus on entrepreneurship, personal entrepreneurship, because we want people to be entrepreneurs in their own lives. It is fantastic for people to be the managers of their lives. If they're the managers of their lives, they will also be entrepreneurs at work. This is an important culture, and more than 15,000 students have courses on entrepreneurship. But we also created 87 companies, and 750 have been created in the last 12 years, and 72% of them continue to be up and running. Usually, the average in creation of companies in VET centers is between 80 to 85 companies per year. So up till now, things are going well. You're doing a wonderful job, and I always say so. I will never be thankful enough, but we should also focus on the future. And this means creating an intelligent or smart system in VT in the Basque Country. So we need to provide answers to new objectives. We need to use new methods, but we also need to implement new organizational models, which is fundamental. We need to change the way in which we organize our centers. But beyond that, we need to transmit to our students this new context. We need to work on emotions, feelings, imagination, intuition, and the capacity to improvise. This is what will provide them with the necessary tools to never be afraid of a robot, because when a robot wants to have all this, then generations and generations and generations of robots will have to exist before they can ever achieve this. So we want our students to be good professionals, but also focus on this. This is what we're going to be working on, working with human beings and in this context, and they will be able to work with machines, digitization, and so on and so forth comfortably if we are able to focus on this. And we talked about high performance, and we have wonderful VT centers that have a long tradition, but we also need to change how they are organized. And this means that they need to be very agile, that they need to also be innovative and work in different contexts, working in collaboration. We all work in different networks and provide support to each other, and we also are able to transfer knowledge amongst the VET centers. We also want leaders and motivation. It's not enough to just say what you have to do. We need the managing teams, the leaders, to motivate workers so that everyone participates in the projects. This brings us to work in collaboration. And as you might see, this is something we know how to do in the Basque Country. But sometimes when you have a problem, you try and find a solution for it directly. Or I find a group of teachers that work with me, and that's it. But we've learned to do this all together. We all work together. All the centers and all the networks progress with the same aim. And now I'm going to show you a video so that you understand what I mean by this collaboration.
Es una metáfora.
It's a metaphor. You see how the waves attack and how with enthusiasm and courage, some of them just jump out of the boat because they see that they're not able to move forward, but they are courageous. There's no strategy. If they don't collaborate with each other, they will hit each other. They aren't able to maintain the boat floating. And this is something that we've learned in the Basque Country. So we now have teams that work together. They understand each other, they make a great effort, and they are very generous. They work in a responsible way. They trust each other. You see that they don't know what's happening. They just trust their leader. They work with solidarity. And they believe in what they're doing. They are brave. There's no fear, and they know what has to be done. They continue working together. They're very tired, exhausted, but they continue because they have a common aim. And they want to obtain their objectives that they have set, and we have an objective set, and that's our students. And thanks to your work that we are working, and that's why I'm here today, and I'm able to explain what we're doing and what's going to be done in the future, because we work together in the same direction, and we know what we want to achieve. This means that these centers, and I'm talking about the high performance centers, are going to work in a dual manner. They need to understand what's happening nowadays, face the problems, management, the secretaries, the students, the grades, the classes, the classrooms. Everything should be involved. But beyond having the normal running of the centers, we also need to change things little by little to be able to face the future. That means that we should also work on the strategy and on innovation. So strategy, innovation, and the daily operation are very important. And we're working on the management of complexity, because in the centers of the future, we will have 5 elements that you see here at the top: management of information, of knowledge, of innovation, management of change, and a fundamental element, the management of trust. If we go to the first part, management of knowledge, information, and innovation, we will have a big data of all VET, so that we all have all the data possible on VET or whatever is interesting for us in VET. But there's also a concept here of intelligence that will allow centers to innovate. And why do I say this? Because we worked in shared surveillance and in our organization to be able to anticipate what is going to happen. In this context, we also worked on applied innovation. We're doing many things, and many more things should be done. We talk about strategy and innovation, but we also need other elements for the teacher staff. And we will see what other elements we are taking into account so that this becomes part of the culture. We have a continuous improvement culture, but we also want innovation to be part of our culture. But there's also the management of change, which means that people have to think about the future. There should be a team reflecting on what will happen in 3 years. What will my center be interested in? What will the ministry be interested in doing in 3 years? And we need for people to focus on this too. And also there's the management of trust. If there's something important in VET centers, it is teaching staff and it's managing staff. And something we want to do, because we are convinced that it should be done so, should have a satisfied teaching staff. We're going to also focus on this. Why? Because we want this to be a common project. The success of everything we do is of each and everyone participating in VET. This shared success should generate trust and satisfaction. And if we're doing something wrongly, we should try and change it to be able to generate the satisfaction of centers and also of the department that I lead. And with this, we will achieve two things: to motivate, but also to achieve greater commitment in projects. Another element that we are working on 65 centers in 3 networks, and we have a lot of teachers ready to work on this. We are working on data analysis, and we want for the relevant information to reach out to everyone that is interested. So we have 1,816 teachers ready for this. This is a slide that you won't see clearly, but it's important that you understand what it says. Look at innovation for the last 4 years.
We've been trialing how to work people, and we've got 5,138 innovative signals that were important for VET centers. Of these 5,138, there's 72 VET schools, but of the 5,138 signals, we've prepared 597 pre or draft projects, 326 products, 141 products. We've generated 225 new opportunities, created 24 companies that work in the field of innovation. Even more important than that, we've managed to get 227 actions that are actually innovation processes we transferred to our students, because there's no point innovation staying with our teachers. Our students need to be innovative when they leave our VET schools. Whether they go and work for somebody else or whether they work for themselves, they need to be innovative. They need to provide something to our companies in this world of innovation that we find ourselves as. Those are just figures about what we're doing. But we have other things. We've got drivers for advanced learning. We've got people that are in charge of satisfaction in our VET schools. We've got change strategists, big data specialists. There's a new roles that we're introducing in VET with these teams, with the strategy teams, planning teams, guidance teams, satisfaction, innovation, projects, learning, and tutorship teams. We almost tutor our students individually, and we change the layout of classrooms. Everybody talks about classrooms, about the headmaster's, headmistress office and all this, but we're now going to have different kinds of spaces. We're going to have high performance spaces, innovation spaces, intelligence spaces. All this is important for VET. What's more, we're working with all of these technologies you can see. We've got robotics additive manufacturing, 3D printing additive manufacturing that we use in 4 main areas, as our Minister for Industry said. Firstly, in industry, that's an important sector for us, but also 3D printing, in our case, for the healthcare sector, to support medicine in the case of very complex operations in which we can help during the pre-op, before pre-op session. Doctors can train and do an operation before actually going onto the operating table using models that are manufactured in 3D printers. And of course, the world of gastronomy. We're using 3D in the world of gastronomy, but there are others as well in, for example, the fabrics industry. We work in virtual reality, augmented reality, merged reality, or as it's called also, mixed reality, video games, the Internet of Things, which is something vital for all VET, but also for energy efficiency, or for people that are disabled, because just by moving their head from one side to another, they can maybe turn the lights on and off, raise the blinds, and do other things, and help these disabled people live better. So we're working on all of that area. The new materials and also drones, air drones and underwater drones in very complex environments, for example, in the world of agriculture, so as to find out where it's better to plant your crops, where you can get greater production. We're also working in smart buildings to find out where buildings are losing heat. And we're also trialing with, as I said before, underwater drones to see what sort of results we can obtain from them for different fields. And we're investigating that in VET. And to carry on in the world of Industry 4.0, something that's very important, we've also set up two further things. Smart warehouses, where we can manage over 4,000 different tools and know where those tools are or who has them at a given moment in time. And also what we call 4.0 workshops. We've built a 4.0 workshop, which is a 4.0 industry, i.e. a digitally interconnected factory in a small workshop. And in this small workshop, you can learn about Industry 4.0 before leaving your VET school, so that when they go into those companies that are already in the world of Industry 4.0, they know how to work. And also to help our SMEs find out about what a 4.0 workshop is, because 95% of the companies in the Basque Country have less than 5 employees. They're what we call micro companies. And in the world of the future, there's going to be robotization, interconnection, and we are developing all of that at our VET schools. Those of you that are going to visit Technica will see an example of that. A sample of these little workshops. We've already got 4 schools involved in these workshops, and you will see that tomorrow when you go out on your study tour. But not only do we work in industry, we're also seeking a smarter economy. We want to be able to compete with the best. We're very concerned about that. We really are concerned about sustainable development, because this planet has to last for many millions of years more. And we are the first people from the Basque government to drive forward environmental policy. And VET, of course, has to collaborate in this, has to get on board in this. We are working in new environments, in the environment of sustainable economy, which is vital in the idea of what we call the circular economy. We're also working on climate change, on producing clean energy, but in other contexts as well. For example, sustainable farming. We in our hotel and catering sector are working together with the farming industry to try to make sure that farming is sustainable in the future. Also, different VETs are working on buildings, on smart buildings, how less energy and water can be used to improve the environment. And we're also, of course, working on the area of health. All of this is something that we are doing in our VET schools, using our collaborative networks to aim at the end for sustainable human growth. This means that research centers and Technica, for example, is changing once again. It's going to get bigger. It's going to take on board new responsibilities in the 7 fields that you can see up on the screen, so as to cover everything that I'm trying to explain to you during my talk. So we are going to set up a Basque Institute of Future Learning. So we're going to have to think about what we're doing now, but at the same time think about what the future reality will look like. So we need to be one step ahead of the game. When we work alongside the innovation department or the industry department, when they are developing competitiveness strategies, we need to be there. And it's in that context And so what they ask me of is to be quick, because they said to me, look, we're going so quick that we need to be ahead of the game. We need to actually have people skilled in skill areas that we don't actually know that we need at the moment. So 2 years before they have to go out to work, they need to be prepared. And this is what we have to do. And if you look at this, we're now working in a current decision-making base, thinking of the future. We need to always think of the future, look at unknown, emerging sectors, things that we actually don't know about, because an unknown sector suddenly becomes a known sector overnight. So we need to be able to quickly train people, and this is something that's really important. Also, our teachers need to be trained, and also the guidebooks, the manuals, so that all our teachers are ahead of the game. So we have this need to develop not just the present, but also the future. And we're going to set up another center called the Basque Talent Institute. It'll be concentrating on 4 areas. Firstly, on a talent map. We're going to take a vital qualitative leap forward. We're going to go from this idea of skill-based learning to talent-based learning. How can we take that leap and get people from being skilled to being talented? People talk a lot about talent, but are we just preparing people for being competent in their job? Have we taken the leap? Can we do more? Although what we're doing now is good, can we include the idea of constructive thought, generative intelligence, executive intelligence, and emotional intelligence? These are part of learning processes, and these are part of our active methodologies and collaborative methodologies that are challenge-based. All of this, and what's more, we're going to create an international campus so that people from any country around the world, wherever they may be, can come and work with us. Of course, we will support them. And we're also going to provide support to Basque companies abroad. There are increasing number of Basque companies abroad. And what happens? They need to improve the skills of those people that they have where they are located. And Basque VET is always going to support them so that they can obtain the skills they need in the countries where they are located. And what's more, we are going to transfer our model to other countries if they want. If they want us, if there's a country that has development problems, we will collaborate with them so that they can improve their own VET in the future. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. On many occasions, the cornerstone of everything that I am explaining to you, if I'm here today to explain to you this today, it's because of the tremendous amount of work that is being done by the teachers and the management and those that are working at the VET schools around the world. So congratulations, around the Basque country as well. And now we've got the 5th Basque Plan for Vocational Education and Training for 2018 to 2021, which has been agreed upon with social partners, with unions, with employers' organizations, and this is going to guarantee us that this 5th plan will be a success, because we're all going together and because the government is going to give us a plan, and when we do that, we can do that all together. And this for us is the aim that we all need. And this is the goal that we want. And what is that goal? The best training that we can offer our society. In this 5th plan, I can perhaps summarize it in 4 areas. And in fact, the President spoke about it in his talk. Provide youth with the necessary skills for employability, encourage personal entrepreneurship and 4.0 values amongst youngsters, encourage fairness and equality between men and women, and facilitate transition towards an economy and a society that is sustainable. And what about when the unexpected happens? That was the title of my talk. You may have heard that by the year 2025, millions of jobs are going to disappear. And by the year 2030, millions more will have disappeared. And by the year 2050, 2/3 of the world's population won't have a job. They call that unemployability. There'll be social revolutions, there'll be revolts. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are always complaining, moaning the whole time. This is something that reminds me of another context. I was with a group of friends, 3 or 4 friends, Basque. We were traveling around the center of Spain, which is one of the most beautiful parts of Spain. And they went to a very small village. It was a very pretty village. They said, okay, let's go and have breakfast in this village. It looks like we're going to have a good breakfast here, but they couldn't find anybody in the village. It was empty. How weird, how strange, everything was closed. And suddenly a man, sort of an older man, rushed up to them and said, and the boss said to them, well, we want to go and have breakfast here. And he said, well, it's going to be impossible here, maybe in an hour from now, because the whole of this village has gone to mass. The whole village has gone to mass, yeah. Our priest is tough on us, and he forces us to go to mass. And he said, okay, well, we'll wait. So the man rushed off to church and said, well, what should we do? We'll go for a walk. And said, well, why don't we go to church and see what's happening? So they go to church and see what's happening. They go into the church. They get to the back of the church. They don't want to interrupt anything. And there's the priest. The priest has got a bright red face. His hand is raised high, and he said, and in this town, nobody will be saved. You're all sinners, he was shouting. And when you go to hell, and you're all going to go to hell, and you're being burnt alive slowly from the bottom upwards. And when they're pulling out your tongues with hot tongs, and then the Basques couldn't stand that anymore, and he lifted his hand and he said, I'm really sorry, I have to interrupt. And there's somber silence, and even the flies stopped flying. And he said, listen, Father, if we've got to go to hell, we'll go, but please don't frighten us. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen in the year 2050? If we don't know what's going to happen 10 days from now, just look at the news. It's like one shock to another. What's going to happen in the year 2050? Nobody knows. People don't know what's going to happen in 2030. The only thing we can do is get prepared so that our society, our people, our population are prepared to do things as best as possible so that in the year 2030, 2050, 2100, at least here in the Basque country, will be a prosperous country, an advanced country, a country that shows solidarity. So we've got to be prepared to do that, and we've got to work to make sure that our people are prepared. We can't just frighten people and say they're going to go to hell. No, because otherwise people start fighting each other because there's not going to be any jobs. Did you see the first video, the number of possibilities that are out there in a better world? And let's work for that. There are 47 countries here in this room, 47 countries. Can you imagine if we all started working on that? That's the context. That's the context that we are seeking to make progress. I was saying to you, the ability to adapt, the ability to react, and the ability to anticipate. This is what VET in the Basque country is going to carry on developing. And now you'll see in just some brief images in a video, a sort of a summary.
When winds of change begin to blow, some people build walls. Others construct windmills. Our windmills, the windmills of professional training in the Basque country, have 3 sails: innovation, entrepreneurship, and internationalization. 3 sails supported by a huge central pillar: training. These windmills produce the most powerful of energies, the energy of people in the know, ready to do what they know best. The world is undergoing overwhelming changes. Technology is making the future become the present at an alarming rate. And what today seems impossible, tomorrow will be reality. Professional training in the Basque Country has transformed once again. A complete and vital transformation that has been possible above all due to the hard work and the commitment and involvement of training centres. We've reached the point where we can all confirm that we're ready to answer the needs of those new demands that are constantly coming up. To innovate is to dare to change. Advanced production, automated intelligence, energy, connected automation, virtual reality, nanotechnology, technology in medicine, drones that are applied to constructing intelligence, and the applied production of items through 3D printing, among others. The environments and the specialized areas in which Basque professional training are already working on. We've reinvented ourselves again. We're taking on new challenges that oblige us to work and organize ourselves in other ways, to imagine, design, to risk and apply. Nowadays, it's not enough to solve problems as they arise. It's now necessary to always be one step ahead. It's not enough to just have quality. It's now vital to be part of the innovation culture. A disruptive innovation that requests more and better knowledge of everything. Knowledge that we must also know how to apply. We can't wait to acquire experience to respond. We've prepared ourselves to respond quickly and to be one step ahead of the challenges that lay before us. We need to train entrepreneurs with the capacity to manage, interpret and make decisions. People that have initiative and are capable to contribute, bringing value to their professional and personal lives. A vital learning that must be applied to their professional environment. The future already demands a different approach, analyzing, intuition, knowledge of how to construct, to be able to create and manage complexities, with the capability to make proposals, establish aims, evaluate priorities, and to generate alternatives. We train in values, we train people, we train professionals, we train for life. And we're ready to take one step forward and meet the needs of the new Industrial Revolution 4.0 that we're now beginning to see. Professional training in the Basque Country looks to always be one step ahead of these needs. It adapts, it transforms, it even reinvents itself. We work in challenging environments that need efficient solutions. These can only come via the hands of the best professionals. We work for the people, those that make up our great team of Basque training professionals, those who work day after day making it all possible, with one clear objective, that the people we train become the great professionals that the Basque Country needs. A promising future for qualified, modern, advanced and caring society.
That's VET in the Basque Country. That's what it's all about. Vocational education and training that actually depends and is included within the Basque government's education department. And we're proud of that because everything that I've explained is going to be carried out by our vocational education and training schools. And it's these schools that provide values. We're training people. We're training people for life. And we know that because training for life is a matter of training professionals, but it's a lot more than that. That's what the education system's about. We are Basque Vocational Education and Training. We're the education system of the Basque Country. Education, we know, amongst other things, is the art of getting across the value of learning. And we need to get those values across because we're going to have to carry on learning throughout the rest of our lives. Everybody that comes to us is going to carry on learning throughout the rest of their lives. I know that when we talk about changes and what changes that are needed, that there are times when you feel like you're climbing a mountain, you still can't see the summit, and you still have to keep going up, and you still can't see the summit, but we're all joined together with the same piece of rope. We're doing this together. But we need to carry on going up. We need to carry on climbing because it's worthwhile. A few years ago, well, actually, it was quite a few years ago now, I was teaching here at my school in San Sebastian. I was called by a colleague who'd visited our VET school, but he'd gone back to a different part of Spain. And he said to me, Jorge, I've got a group of people here who've never seen the sea. I said, really? And I said, oh, well, bring them up here to San Sebastian. We took them to Aquara and we showed them the beach. We showed them the sea. They came by bus. They were kids of around 14, 15. They got off the bus. They rushed off. They went right to the beach, to the barrier that's right before the beach. They didn't say anything. We were just standing next to them. And the teacher looked at them, my friend looked at them and said, what do you think? What do you think? And they all rushed off, took their T-shirts off, threw their trousers off and rushed into the water. And they were all in the water with the water up to their ankles. It was incredible to see them. And we were behind them, panting. And two girls then came up to us. They're about 15 years old. One held my hand, and the other one held her teacher's hand. And she said to her teacher, "Sir, teach me to see." We were in tears because, amongst other things, I understood at that moment how important my job is, how important it is to get across to our students those values so that they can learn, amongst other things, to see and to understand a context which is fundamental. Because we don't know where our influence ends. We don't know. That's how important our job is, because it's the best job in the world, because we are preparing those people who can change the world. We are preparing them. It's our privilege. That's what makes our job important, because they are the future. We are designing the future through them now. And I'm going to finish, and just allow me to read a text that I liked a great deal. I'm going to try and read it, and I will try and interpret it for it. It's a text written by Mario de Andrade, a Brazilian poet. And he says, I want to live next to human people, very human people, that know how to laugh at their mistakes, that don't get vain because of their triumphs, that don't flee from their responsibilities, that defend human dignity, and that just want to walk alongside truth and honesty. And believe me, that when I read that, and I look at VET, I can see many of the people that are out there, many of the people that are working in the schools and do what this text says. And it's something that makes me very proud, makes me proud to represent you. But this is what's going to make us have a very promising future. Your work is vital. You know that as well as I do. I have to encourage you because the future depends on you, on us. That's what's important, because at the end of the day, this, which is something vital for many thousands and thousands of people who trust our vocational education and training, what is essential for us with this work that we do makes their life worthwhile. And this is something that we should never forget, ever. I'd like to thank you all for the work that you do. Lehendakari, regional ministers, thank you very much. And to all of you, thank you very much. Really, dear friends, from my heart. Thanks for all having listened to me, to this introduction. See you again soon.